Within our world are creatures we cannot hope to comprehend. Science refuses to recognize them as fact, but Hollywood sees this as an easy cash grab. Now, join these three men as they venture into these attempts at success. You will witness the good, the bad, and the strange as you are now venturing into Cryptic Collectors.
Welcome to Cryptic Collectors, the only show that gives you the answer of what they truly say about men with big feet. I am William, the Crooked Man Kerning.
I am Ace Marrok.
I am SippyVA, and welcome to Cryptic Collectors.
Yep, our this is going to be an interesting little project for the three of us to do. Yeah, so like Sippy said, welcome to Cryptic Collectors, and the idea for this show is very simple. The three of us here are going to be talking about different adaptations of famous or even lesser known urban legends as well as cryptids, and see if any are good, if any are bad, some are downright weird, and see if, well, they're worth talking about. So the main idea why all three of us decided to get together and do this is because all of us here are fellow cryptozoology fans. We love talking about that, urban legends, and just mysteries in general. So I guess to start us out here on our very first podcast. So Will, you of course being the host, what was your first introduction to cryptozoology?
Well, actually, I guess the biggest one would probably be, everyone knows this one, Bigfoot, because my father, when we grew up, told me of his encounter with Bigfoot.
Oh, really?
Or at least his supposed encounter with Bigfoot.
Okay, go on. I'm interested in hearing this story.
So my father, he grew up in farmland, and when you grow up in farmland, you kind of recognize all the smells, right? You recognize what animals are there, you recognize what plants, things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, he ran across something in the cornfield that smelled horrible, just terrible, and he saw something moving around in the corn and ran off. Years later, he ran across a documentary that said that Bigfoot is well known for his smell, and he had two theories: either it was Bigfoot, or it was his neighbor who was a hairy, smelly man.
Wait a minute, did he?
That'll do it.
Yeah. Now, so keep this in mind, kid. You're going out in the woods hiking with your dad, and you say, "Dad, look, it's Bigfoot," and he's gonna say, "No, that's fucking Clyde from down the street again."
Or wait a minute. Well, in this case, it'd be Denny Roth.
Yeah, no one knows who that is, Ace. This is literally the first time people are getting introduced to us. But you will soon, folks.
Here's a bar of soap, you bipedal skunk.
For those of you who are curious, go look up DR Productions.
But now my theory is almost every cryptid is someone's neighbor. Mothman, just that one neighbor that likes hang gliding and wearing big red glasses.
The Loch Ness Monster is really just a guy playing with his bath toy. Oh, wait.
Oh, wow. That must be a giant bath toy. Or it's that old man from Gravity Falls. Every town has a crazy old man.
He gets eaten by the pterosaur. All right. I guess with that side. So Sippy, how did you get your start?
Well, just like William said, Bigfoot. Again, I was watching a documentary when I was a kid about Bigfoot walking through the forest, and I was just curious about, like, what if Bigfoot was real? And as a kid, I started thinking, like, what if we go to the woods? Say, can we go see him? But I never got the chance to because, it was in the middle of summer.
Wilderness and saw the fate of Bigfoot.
No, mosquitoes. I hate mosquitoes.
I
hated mosquitoes as a kid. I'm a little more curious now. Now that I've discovered the existence of mosquito repellent.
Wait. Hold on a second here. It took you like that long to discover that there's such a thing as mosquito spray.
I was a young boy, yes, but now that I'm a man, the one challenge that is in my way is both money and time.
I'm just trying to.
And the possibility if Bigfoot's real, he could be murdered by him.
No. I need to have this. I have this thought in my head now. In your case, Sippy. So I gotta remember this. When you went through puberty, you just suddenly realized, wait a minute, there's a spray for mosquitoes I could use. Yes. Yeah.
I've been using vinegar the entire time.
Why the fuck would you use vinegar?
Yeah, actually, yeah. When Sippy was going through puberty, he went to get deodorant. Right next to a mosquito spray. He's like, "Son of a bitch."
That's fantastic. But I'm just imagining you're like just like Muriel from Courage the Cowardly Dog. Nope, not enough vinegar.
Vinegar. It was vinegar.
It's vinegar.
It's like that one Vine when you have just about enough vinegar and you gotta spend it all. You just use it as water.
Yes.
It's not alcohol. Water, right? It's vinegar. What? It's vinegar. Pussy.
Well, what about you, Ace? What was your first introduction to cryptids?
Wait.
No, he said me.
Wait,
Yeah.
I thought you were talking to William or not, because I was like, wait, you already asked him.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
But in my case, it's kind of an interesting story. So my exposure to cryptozoology actually started back in middle school. I was
When his neighbors started acting weird on him.
Oh yeah. Of course, the neighbors are starting it. No, actually, it was a book of Ripley's Believe It or Not that actually got my interest. Was actually my start.
Ooh, yeah.
I remember reading a book way back then. I can't even remember the details, but I remember the cover was of this weird-looking octopus. I think it might have been a Dumbo octopus.
Dumbo octopus?
Yeah, it's I'll show you that later, but it's a very
Wait. Is it the octopus with a droopy face of sorts?
Yes,
I've seen that.
Yeah, there is an artwork of that with like green water around it, and the book showed you it showed a lot of classic horror stuff that showed like the difference between fiction and reality, like mummies, for example. But one particular image that always stuck in my head was the very classic image of the Loch Ness Monster. And
that'll do it.
That as well as the original shot of the original footage of Bigfoot. There was an image of that as well. So that in turn was my start to cryptozoology. And after that, I just became obsessed with it. I would go on my computer when I got home from school and just look up anything I could find on these weird creatures that may be real or not.
Or your neighbors, you don't know.
Oh, yes, and my neighbors. And interestingly enough, that's when I started getting into a lot of shows like Lost Tapes, Monster Quests. Like if you're a millennial, you know exactly what I'm talking about with those type of shows.
Right.
And it was a very interesting experience of growing up with that. And I think for me, one of the things I've always appreciated about cryptozoology is just the sense of mystery, and I don't want to get a little hokey here, but magic even, that there's still some things around the world that, we don't know is real or not, and it just fuels our imaginations. And in many ways, that's why I've often regarded cryptozoology as almost like a modern myth in many ways. Because because like a lot of people back then who would revere these beings as otherworldly in whatever region you live in, for us, we do the same thing with cryptids. We always are very curious on if these things exist or not. Like, who knows if there's a giant plesiosaur living in the bottom of Loch Ness? Who knows if there's a hairy man or a long-lost primate that is existing out in the woods back there?
And we know there's a hairy man. I specified he might have been my father's neighbor. How many times do I have to tell you this?
I tell you that he's possibly Denny Roth, since I'm able to get pictures with him every single time when he's roaming around in the woods. You can ask him yourself, there, fucker. But yeah, I have a very great experience when it comes to that, and I've always been a fan of it. It's inspired me with a lot of storytelling and ideas that I've had for future projects. And yeah, I just always love and enjoy watching any new cryptid or urban legend based adaptations that I can find, which would go for today's story. Because speaking of Bigfoot, today we are going to be looking at one of the well-known Sasquatches around the United States, that being the classic 1971 film The Legend of Boggy Creek, which is an adaptation of the more underrated and lesser known of the Sasquatch species, the Fouke monster.
Or as many people call him, the motherfucker.
Yes, always.
There was actually one thing from the movie that really caught my attention.
Yeah.
And there was this one line that the narrator says. He says, "Now us Fouke boys didn't know this at the time." I'm like, wait, excuse me?
I kept
I hear that right
throughout the whole film.
That was a great line. I remember we were making fun. I remember me and Will were making fun of that, and it just got to that line. It's like, well, that's the kind of sex I didn't expect you guys to have.
but before we go on to the actual review,
so off guard. I'm like, okay, yeah, you got my attention.
But before we go on to the actual review, I will say, out of all the cryptids, Bigfoot is definitely the more realistic, in my opinion, because every country has one.
Yeah,
there's every country, every state in America, almost you can find almost anywhere you go, you're gonna find a Bigfoot.
Yeah, and additionally, too, what I think is just more interesting about Bigfoot is just how grounded of a concept he is. It's not something that may or may not come from outer space or anything like that. It's just a natural creature that can exist, and we just haven't found it yet. I mean, God sakes, how many problems that we have trying to find new life in the sea? So God forbid, in our own lands, like, there's always something out there. And
actually, one I did want to bring up that was a very interesting one, in my opinion, was the Vietnam rock apes. If you guys heard of this one?
Yes, you told me this story.
What?
Yeah, Vietnam rock apes. So apparently, during the Vietnam War, there was pretty much a three-way war going on between America, Vietnam, and the creatures of the forest that were called rock apes by the U.S.
Ooh.
They were pretty much fighting off the armies using rocks and sometimes grenades if they get their hands on them.
God, that needs to be a movie so badly. Done by trauma.
Like, how's not a movie? Yeah, because my dad, during the time, my father and my uncle were actually drafted into Vietnam, and they've actually heard this story. My father, he was in the Air Force, so he never actually went to Vietnam, but my uncle did. I really should have asked before we started if he's heard anything about that.
Maybe that
would have been really interesting there.
Maybe you should have asked him if he actually experienced the apes. He just saw them jumping around with throwing grenades at soldiers.
Yeah, well, when it comes to my uncle, he kind of over-exaggerates every story he tells to a point you're like, okay, this is fascinating, but I know you're lying your ass off.
So I'm just imagining, like, when you finally ask him that question, he just goes into these flashbacks and just talking about the apes, like, just going crazy, and you're just like sitting like on the floor, just like amazed at what you're seeing.
Look, I like the love-making scene with you and Scarlett Johansson, but I don't think that happened.
And he sounds like a lot of fun to be around.
He really is. But another thing I didn't want to say is people always ask if a giant hairy creature exists in the woods, how have we not found him yet? Well, obviously, it's because we call him Bigfoot. That is an issue with his body that he's clearly self-conscious about, and we named it after him.
It's like,
well, you know what they say about guys with big feet.
Yeah,
he's probably embarrassed about that too.
But just imagine, Bigfoot was telling, let's say, his grandfather. He's like, Grandpa, I'm going to show you the humans are kind. He goes out there, and the first thing he hears, fucking hell, look at that hairy Bigfooted son of a bitch. Then Bigfoot runs back crying. His grandfather goes to confront people and insult his grandson. And then he goes, holy fuck, it's another hairy Bigfoot son of a bitch. This one's fat.
And now I'm imagining like a similar sequence, like when it comes to like going up the Himalayas, is, oh my god, it's a big hairy white guy.
Now, Rowdy, Bigfoot just doesn't want to deal with us because we're kind of assholes to him.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was feeling about Bigfoot, honestly. The reason why he doesn't come out so much is because the first thing we do is either insult him or fire on him.
Yeah, we try to kill the poor bastard. But it's funny that we bring that up, though, because that actually brings up something interesting about the Fouke monster. And that being that technically a lot of the encounters that people have had with him were, almost dangerous at one point. Now,
That's another interesting fact is there's a lot of similarities between the Fouke monster and Momo, the Missouri monster.
Yes, and Momo has a very now, admittedly, hearing about the Momo case, that's a little bit. It is a little bit less intense in that situation. Given that Momo never really tried to like hunt, try to like go into somebody's house at that point. But they do have very similar encounters when it comes to how close they were to humankind at that point. And what's interesting too about the Fouke monster is that actually before the 1970s, there were some encounters prior to that. Doing a little bit of research on this, I actually discovered that in 1851 and 1856, there were sightings of a large hairy creature circling around the Memphis area. Even then, there were some encounters like even go a little bit more ahead of that. Like there were some occasions in 1955 and even in 1946. But it really didn't hit mainstream until the well-known Ford encounter in May 2nd, 1971. What happened is that the family encountered a creature what initially thought was to be a bear, but then that's when they realized it was something more than what they anticipated. They fired at the creature, but there was no trace of blood found, and additionally, there was a 3-toed footprint found close to their house and scratch marks on the porch and damage at the window in the house sightings.
Now, before the gunfire, he did have 5 toes, like a normal creature would.
Yeah. Then they shot him off, and that's why he got pissed.
That makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, he probably was coming in there being like, "Hello, I'd like to talk to you about our Lord and Savior, the Yeti." and they're like, "Get out of here, you damn preacher!" Jokes aside, though, it is a very, very eerie thought to consider that something like that, so mysterious and yet so powerful, could be right at your doorstep.
That's how I feel whenever the mailman comes to the door.
But it is a very interesting thought, though, because that's one of the things I've always found interesting about the Fouke monster is that something like this is not afraid to go basically right up to our neck of the woods and not be afraid to face us head on.
Maybe this one is lonely. Maybe it wants to find that connection with society, but it can't because everybody who meets it is either scared to death or wants to kill it.
That's possible.
It's the thing that it's eldritch in nature.
Yeah.
To other people.
Yeah, that's a very good possibility. Like, it could be a creature that's trying to find, kind like itself, but every single time it tries to, it just doesn't turn out well. And there is a great amount of tragedy to that. That's one of the reasons why I've always considered, Sasquatch to be so interesting is because, technically speaking, they are of our genes, considering that they're supposedly primates. And we come from that same brand. Now, whether or not that brand, how different that brand, that branch of the genetics tree is a different story. But it does raise up a lot of interesting questions about how these creatures function, act, and how much they probably would want to be with kinds like them. Now, this is where we also get into a little director by the name of Charles B. Pierce. What's interesting about Pierce is that he didn't really start out like a lot of other filmmakers did. He was actually an advertising salesman who, hearing about the stories of the Fouke monster at the time, convinced a local truck company to invest in a film and hired locals, mainly high school students, to make a film of about $1,600,000 and to basically capitalize on it. Interestingly, too, because it only would have been roughly less than a year since the original Ford incident story, and then the release of Legend of Boggy Creek, which was released on August 23rd, 1972.
Mm-hmm.
And don't forget its successful sequel, which was so famous, it appeared on Mystery Science Theater 3000.
Yes, of course. The best sequel. 10 out of 10, best sequel. Although in interviews, Charles B. Pierce actually has mentioned talking about that movie and how much he hated working on it. But
going back to what you said about actually, I'll get back to that on that, but it does seem like this one particular guy, in fact, was the town that dreaded sundown like
released before or after Boggy Creek?
It was released after Boggy Creek, and yeah.
Oh, no kidding. So this guy actually made the first one, I guess.
Yeah.
And maybe Texarkana wanted to do something similar,
Yes,
or more realistic.
yeah, he did. And in fact, after he finished making The Legend of Boggy Creek, his next film was The Town That Dreaded Sundown.
So it's the same guy.
Yeah,
okay.
Same director.
Okay, that makes sense. I remember, Ace, you told me it's very similar to that film when you first brought it up to me.
Yeah, so much like The Town That Dreaded Sundown, and we'll transition now into talking about the film, Boggy Creek has a very, very documentary-esque feel to it. While it is still very fictional in nature, the way it approaches its storytelling is very much like a documentary. A lot of
Actually, it feels a lot like a PBS documentary, if you guys remember those.
I would think a PBS documentary and a little bit of In Search of with Leonard Nimoy. The difference is that Town That Dreaded Sundown was a little bit more, I wouldn't say fictional in that sense. It was a lot more cinematic in its execution. Whereas Boggy Creek feels much more like a documentary. And one of the biggest positives that I personally have about Boggy Creek is that I really like the atmosphere. It feels very much like this down-to-earth, very isolated world where just anything could happen at any moment.
It's a whole new world, different from our own, and it's kind of like a town in the middle of nowhere, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been to a small village before. My fiance is actually from a small village, Hickory, and I can definitely see like the appeal and definitely like how it's similar. I can kind of get that feel of being isolated and having its own, I guess, local lore to it.
It's a spooky fucking town.
Yeah, exactly.
Spooky fucking town.
The spooky fucking town. And similar to that, Sippy, I actually, growing up in Staten Island, New York, my community isn't exactly a big one either. And, given how small a community is, the more mystery and the more intrigue that can come around for places like that.
Like Cropsey.
Yeah, exactly. Like Cropsey. Our own little, our own version of the boogeyman, if you will. That's one of the things I've always really liked about Legend of Boggy Creek. And also, I like that it tells all of the different stories that were known about the Fouke monster at the time. I like that it's not just the famous Ford incident. That's actually that's actually at the end of the movie.
That's the climax.
Yeah, that's the climax. But the rest of it was all the other encounters that people had with the Fouke monster. Additionally, what I like is that he doesn't get actors to film a lot of these. He actually uses real people to discuss about the history of the Fouke monster and talk about their stories, which I find very fascinating. And
that's what I figured.
Yeah, and it really emphasizes the documentary feel of it. And the only parts of it that are really just fictional and lean more into that horror side of things is the reenactments. And even then, I feel a lot of them are done very well. I like that the Fouke monster himself itself in this case, is basically just covered up in shadows. Like all we see is just his hairy silhouette.
Yeah, of all the Bigfoot,
the eldritch fear of the unknown of what it could actually be.
Exactly.
Yeah, of all the Bigfoot movies and stuff I've seen, this one has actually made Bigfoot a creepy creature, not just a rampaging monster. He actually has a presence.
Right. And initially, what I like about how they depict him here, too, is that, as you said, they depict him as mystery, but not as this killer. It's just more of this interesting animalistic fascination. And because throughout the entire movie, like, it doesn't, like, just go up and try to kill someone like any other fictional...
Unless you're a dog.
Yeah, unless you're a dog.
But then again, its assault on animals may well be its primal instinct to survive, to get whatever food it comes across. And animals or local farmland animals like pigs or cows, or even dogs for that matter, may be just sustainable food to him.
Yeah,
but he doesn't know that these are pets, you know?
Yeah, I had to ask, did you guys kind of laugh when they reenacted the monster attacking dogs, because it just looked like a guy in a hairy suit playing with dogs?
And Hey, I mean, at least it didn't end as bad as, like, say, a JoJo villain would probably do it.
No, no,
God.
no,
No, not even. Do not
Yeah, that
even.
one where he picked up the dog from behind and was spinning him around. I couldn't help but say, "Come here, Mister Snookums."
Hug me, damn it! But to go with your point, Sippy, it also could be a case of defending itself, because in some of those stories we don't know if the dog attacked it first.
Yeah, now the dog thing, that's also another similarity to Momo, because that was one of the most notable victims of the monster during the Momo, Missouri thing.
Yeah, the old story where where a woman by the name of Doris found her younger brother screaming, and she looked outside and saw the creature holding a deceased dog in its hands.
Ooh,
Another similarity that technically isn't true is the fact that Momo supposedly had 3 toes. The documentary by Small Town Monsters, Momo the Missouri Monster, they actually interviewed a girl who said when she was younger, she made a fake footprint of Momo, which had 3 toes, and people believed it.
Yeah, and I'm mentioning this, Fouke Monster has also been known to have 3 toes, and there is photographic images that prove such, of people cementing that, and as of yet, that has not been proven to be distrue. So
yeah, I also like the musical numbers in this. I was not expecting that.
Yeah, like a lot of musicals. Now, the score itself was done by Jamie Mendoza Nava, who did a pretty good job with this movie. He's actually done quite a bit of horror films over the years. Like Boggy Creek is probably his, and Town That Dreaded Sundown are probably his most well-known works, but he's also done some other horror films. One other one that I know of was a supernatural horror film called The Brotherhood of Satan, which was a Columbian Pictures film.
It also should have been the name of our podcast.
Well, we'll get to that. Well, that'll be for future occasions, my friend. But no, the score is really good. Now, if I were to also, because speaking of musical numbers, there are a couple of issues that I personally have with the movie. While I do like the film, there are some issues that I do think really hold it back from being as great as I would have liked it, enjoyed it as. One of them is the really weird country vocal numbers that we get throughout the film.
Yeah, I noticed that.
I mean, I get what they're for. They're there to add to the Arkansas feel to it, to really give it that, country feel to it. But the problem is that they don't really stick well with the mood of the film.
But you see, like you said, the director, he did advertisements, right? So what if he was also trying at the same time to advertise Arkansas as well, like to advertise Fouke itself? Maybe it could get more publicity. Maybe it could get more tourists to actually come and see the monster for himself, or perhaps even the local culture of Fouke itself. So,
yeah, actually, now I'm curious if this movie actually drew some attention to them. Actually,
yeah, exactly. And I've actually read that it gained a lot of good critical reception. So
yes,
I'm thinking like adding these songs as well as some visual fan service of Fouke just shows what kind of country you'd be going into, and maybe it's best to see it for yourself. Both the music, the sounds, the wildlife, it's all there, and
monsters.
They're just advertising it because it's their home. It's
that's
it's more than just the monster.
Yeah.
It's the local legend and lore of the entire city of Fouke.
Yeah.
So the whole area of Fouke is its character itself.
And additionally, it's funny you talk about the reception of the movie, because it was critically well received at the time, and additionally, it made a lot at the box office. As I mentioned, the movie only had a $1,600,000 budget, but it made $20 million worldwide.
Mm-hmm.
That's impressive for a film in 1972. In that sense, I can see that with the musical numbers, it is, or not the musical numbers, but the vocal numbers in this case.
Yeah.
I do think that, I can definitely respect just trying to further emphasize the land of Fouke, Arkansas. I just wish that perhaps they have gone with some bands that would have fit the tone of the film a lot more. while still keeping with their intention.
Yeah, but it's like you said, it was his first time going into directing, so
Yeah, exactly, and that's why it's a bit of slack I can give, for his first time directing it. However,
I'd say it's a good attempt, honestly.
I think so too. It is very well directed. I love a lot of the shots. Like filming wise, it looks fantastic.
Yeah, and they get a lot of good shots, which also kind of leads to a big complaint of mine. But Ace, you go ahead.
Yeah, I was actually just about to bring up the same complaint that you have. If there is one big issue we could talk about the movie is the pacing. And
yeah, the pacing can be a little slow.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, I normally like slow-paced movies, especially monster movies, because a lot of those can work really well. Here's the problem when it comes to how Boggy Creek does it. There's a lot of establishing shots throughout the film, which at first I think work amazingly, but the more you keep going with those shots, the more you drone down the pace, and it just becomes more and more of a chore to sit through.
Yeah, actually, remember when we were watching
the atmosphere.
Actually, remember when we were watching Ace and I even said, "Can we skip a little bit?"
Yeah, I remember we actually almost tried to skip some parts of it, and any single time that we just had just people doing nothing or just shots of the woods or the swamps, we were just let's just keep going. No one cares about this. No one cares. Get to the good shit.
I want to see some monsters.
It's like this is stupid. I want to see some Bigfoot.
You already gave us a musical number and some shots of the wood.
Musical. Oh my god! Can you guys imagine the Legend of Boggy Creek the musical?
Oh my god!
Hey, look! If I could think up the idea for a Roman musical, I think a Fuck Monster musical could work. A fucking good musical.
I like it. All right.
A fucking good time.
Oh, you know what? I know something that you'd have to do with it. Okay. Listen, okay, hear me out, guys.
I'm hearing
you. We officially we officially put it on Broadway. The composer is Andrew Lloyd Webber.
Oh no! Why?
Oh no. I'm getting. Oh no! It gets better. It gets better. Much better. Now, then you get Michael Crawford as the fuck monster. And there you go. And there you go. We have Legend of Boggy Creek the musical. It'll make millions at the box office, I tell you.
We'll make fucking millions.
It'll make fucking millions.
Yeah. We're talking about millions, Jack. Fucking millions.
Fucking millions. But yeah, but to go back, that is, I think, the biggest issue with the film is most definitely the pacing. And it's not like this couldn't be a film that could have been able to cut some of it out, because the film is only roughly 2 hours.
He didn't need to Zack Snyder it. He didn't need to make it that long.
No, not really. It's a film that's not even 2 hours, and it feels a lot longer than it really should.
Yeah. Oh, I did have to bring up one scene that truly made me laugh. Not the fuck boys. That is hilarious.
Yes.
No, I like the one scene where the guy was sitting on the toilet, and then the fog monster busts his hand through the glass. And when the guy was running out, he was wearing the whole pajama.
That was the Ford incident. That was the Ford incident reenactment.
Yeah, but I was like, how was he pooping though? His pants weren't. He didn't have his pants down.
Well, maybe he was getting ready to, or he was just
he was sitting down, and what he was wearing was a full body underclothing. It was pajamas.
Okay, well in that case, was it one of those things where the seat was open, it's one of those?
Yeah, nope. I don't think he had a butt flap. If he did, it was still closed. And I can't imagine he was not enough in a panic to be like, oh man, I don't want my ass showing. So that'd be weird.
So then, wait. So then, in that case, was he just in there to get some time for himself? Was he just reading and just enjoying?
Well, he didn't have a phone, so I don't know what he was doing in there.
Yeah, I don't want to know either.
Before cell phones, you couldn't do much in the toilet.
Yeah, because then all of a sudden the hand just comes out. And he's like, "Oh shit, it's a hairy hand."
I mean, I'd imagine though that if that happened, I would be scared shitless, literally, if I was on the toilet.
Yeah,
that'd help my bowel movement.
I thank God that happened while I was constipated. I needed that.
Yeah.
Thank you, good sir. Thank you, giant hairy man who may or may not be my neighbor.
Yeah. Also, actually, to bring that up, there was also one really weird moment. That me and Will were watching about this one. Do you remember like the scene where like the hunters were trying to find the ape and they got the best dogs they could get,
Yeah.
They got the famous dogs.
the famous dogs, and they were a couple of Danes, and they didn't
Yeah,
find shit.
I was very upset because we said famous dogs. I was hoping for like Scooby Doo, Marmaduke, Brian Griffin's there, Hong Kong Phooey. That would have been awesome.
But again, it all comes back to the smell. It must smell like horrible, and dogs, their senses are pretty heightened. So I'm just assuming that, oh, no, I don't want to get near that smell.
Yeah. Also, it's not even like the dog's fault because they went down the one trail. They didn't go through the woods to try to find it.
Yeah, and the Fouke monster is known to have a terrible odor, like as a combination of a skunk and a wet dog. So the fact that they couldn't smell that is, I'm sorry, for me that's too unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a little that's where my suspension of disbelief couldn't kick in at that point.
Which is sad because this is
like, what if it was somebody in a fursuit all along and he just bribed him to say, okay, I know you caught me, but listen, I'll pay you whatever you want to just make shit up.
So then
your dogs didn't find anything.
I wonder that's how Denny Roth gets out of his situations then.
Pretty much, probably.
Huh. Yeah. You know what? I'm going to ask him that next time after we have this chat.
That seems like an appropriate question to ask.
Yes, always.
Let me know what he says.
Yeah, but I'm curious to ask you guys, like, what would be like your favorite moment of this movie?
Well, I did like the Matt Murdock cameo at the end there. That was pretty cool.
Oh yeah, the blind guy.
I don't know why he decided to be the devil of Hell's Half Acres, but whatever.
This was his early years. Give him some slack. He was still trying to figure it out.
So he tired the bullshit in New York and figured it'd be easier just to do it here.
Yeah.
Honestly, I would have to say the Ford incident was my favorite, as slow paced as it was, because that was the most action that I could get out of the film.
The Ford incident was definitely a highlight. I love the way it's shot, the way it's paced. You could definitely get the sense of that horror film feel to it at that point. The only other scene that I liked for the film was actually the farmer story, where he was carrying off two of his 100-pound hogs, and then there was where he saw the beast himself. What I like about that is just like the unpredictability of situations like that. When like just something as random as like when you're picking up pigs and carrying them onto your truck, and then all of a sudden this beast just like shows out of nowhere, like that's very cryptozoology. Yes, that's something I'd expect to hear stories like that.
Yeah. And then there was also that one story about that one girl who looked out the window when she was trying to keep the draft out, and she sees the monster, and next thing you know, the cat has died due to shock.
Yeah, that was a creepy moment.
That's when I thought, oh, this thing must be eldritch in nature.
Yeah.
And now I feel bad for him because he clearly we make fun of him as far as feet look, but now he's so ugly a cat died because of it.
Yeah, that poor cat died right then and there from shock.
Yeah. Now another thing I did want to bring up is the attack at the end. That's another similarity between him and Momo, except at the end, the whole town was supposedly chased Momo into the woods, and the family saw a UFO over their house when this happened.
Oh,
yeah.
So you think Momo is actually an alien?
Yeah, that's the big theory. Yeah, Momo's story is really creepy because unlike the Fouke monster, who people still claim to see, Momo really only lasted 1 week.
Momo was very short-lived. Actually, a good comparison I could think of him to, or it to in this case, would be the Dover Demon.
Demon?
Yes. Okay, so the Dover Demon's I'll try to go quick into it because we could probably save that for another occasion. It was a small, weird, alien-looking creature that was known in Dover, Massachusetts, but it was only sighted for just 2 days, both on April 21st and 27th in April 20th and 21st of 1977. And very much like Momo, just in a short period of time, and just all of a sudden, gone. never seen again. And no one knows when it's going to be seen, if seen again, or if it ever was there to begin with. Continuing back with the Ford incident, seeing the comparison, it also just goes again, like just how grounded and basic the Fouke monster is. Because all it did was just leave its footprints and some scratches, which in my opinion is honestly a lot scarier than something like, say, Momo.
Like
Just like when I used the bathroom at a friend's house.
Wait, what? God damn it, you both were speaking at the same time.
William, you go first.
Just like when I used the bathroom at a friend's house. And ladies said I was there.
I was just saying, like an intern from outer space. But yours is better.
I'd say in my case, it would be like the remains that people have when they watch the new Velma series.
Oh my god!
That's scarier than this movie.
No. Whereas the Fouke monster is like is Eldritch, that is straight up Lovecraft. And even then, I'm insulting Lovecraft.
Same when you look at it. It drives you insane when you look at it.
To compare that to Lovecraft, even if we know Lovecraft is that way.
Yeah.
To be fair, both the Velma series and Lovecraft were horribly racist.
Yeah, very true. But we still talk about Lovecraft's work.
We will never
Velma
talk about
is
it
a
again.
stigmata on the Scooby-Doo franchise.
Yes, it is. But to get away from that little joke,
Yeah.
it is interesting also noting that this film actually has a very interesting legacy, as Will brought up earlier, when it comes to sequels. Because technically, there is actually an unofficial sequel 6 years after the original was released.
The Fouke Monster musical.
No, unfortunately, no. It was a film called The Return of Boggy Creek, and this one was a straight-up adventure horror film.
Oh.
Charles B. Pierce had nothing to do with this movie. In fact, a lot of the people who originally worked on this film had nothing to do with it. Wasn't even the same company, for that matter. I've never seen it, but from what I've heard, it is pretty much garbage and just not really something worth your time. There was the unofficial sequel, and then there was the official sequel, which Mystery Science Theater 3000 Rift, Charles B. Pierce worked on, and he's considered to be the worst movie that he's ever done.
Oh, damn.
Yeah. And also, it's interesting, too, is that there was actually another film released in 2011, just simply called Boggy Creek. And this one was a straight-up horror film and is unrelated to The Legend of Boggy Creek. That one was the movie, pretty much, that we were criticizing for, and that it's just about Bigfoot just terrorizing people.
God damn it, Denny.
He just went around and be like, "How dare you not appreciate my artwork?" But at the same time, even though with a lot of these sequels and just unofficial films that, well, quite frankly, no one's going to care about, it also shows the impact that Boggy Creek had towards pop culture at that point. And in many sense, Boggy Creek can kind of be seen as the first mainstream introduction for everybody on the subject of cryptozoology. And
you know what's weird? I actually kind of compare him. I kind of compare the director to Kevin Smith, since he started out very similar.
Yes, Pierce, in many ways, Pierce was one of the originators of independent DIY style filmmaking, where he just decided to one day, with the trend going on, why not capitalize it and just make a film based on it? He just worked with his resources, maxed out as much money as he could, and made a film. And it got very successful. Bringing up impact and legacy of Boggy Creek, in many ways, without this film, we probably wouldn't have as even remotely any adaptations of cryptids or urban legends, for that matter. I mean, there have been some films, of course, beforehand, mind you. There always will be. But Boggy Creek was really the one that started the trend. And really made it something that is marketable and is something worth showing on the silver screen for people to be curious on.
Yeah, I guess you could also say it inspired mockumentaries and found footage films as well.
Yes,
that's true. That's true.
Yeah, especially one particular film which was heavily inspired by, and that, of course, being the Blair Witch Project.
Boo!
God damn, I'm the only one here who appreciates that original film. But a little funny story. The two directors of that film, Daniel Myrick and Eduardo Sanchez, they were huge fans of stuff like In Search Of and Boggy Creek. And they attempted a very similar style with Blair Witch Project, but to a much more supernatural and much more horror-esque twist to it. And, that film led to, the found footage genre that we know of today. So Boggy Creek is very inspirational for a lot of people. It deserves a place in cinema because of it. I guess to kind of wrap things up here, since we made a pretty good time with this, I think Legend of Boggy Creek is a very good film, but it's a film I respect more than I necessarily love. I do think it has its fair share of issues, but I think it's definitely worth your time, especially if you're a cinephile, and especially if you're a lover of cryptozoology. If you are,
I don't want to know what a cinephile is. That sounds gross.
That is a that is a unofficial term of film lovers.
You pervert.
Don't give me that. Ask Yoko Higuchi about that. But I would say though, if you're a fan of film and the subject of urban legend and cryptozoology, this is a must.
I would recommend watching it with a friend to make it a little better.
Yeah, just to have a couple laughs at a few points, like the part with the Fouke boys.
Yes.
God, he's so good.
But yeah, I have to agree with Ace on this one because I feel like this movie, like The Town That Dreaded Sundown is the Texarkana, is like a tribute movie to the lore of Fouke itself. So like I said, I really respect it more than I love it. It's definitely something that should be at least watched and admired, but not for the sake of horror movies, but if you want to find out more about a town's culture, basically.
I definitely give it 3 toes out of 5. Not just for a joke, because that's
Is that our official rating for this movie? It's 3 toes out of 5.
Well, yeah, I figure we just make up different ratings as we go with each movie.
All right, fine. Then I give it 3.5 toes out of 5.
Okay, I'll give it 3 and a couple quarters out of 5.
Oh man, that bullet must have done some damage to his feet. Dear God, how's he standing?
You started it, we continue.
3 toes. That's what I want to know. It's probably impossible. I mean, if you cut off your big toe and your small toe, would you be able to stand?
But that depends, though. Would it be the big toe and little toe that got cut off in that sense? What if it's one of the middle ones?
But even so, you need all your toes to maintain balance in some way.
Remember, this is a primate. They can handle that a little bit differently than we do.
I mean, unless you take out your index toe and your ring toe, then maybe, yes. Then that would be believable.
So see, there you go. So then end of story, end of discussion.
Okay. I just needed you guys to clarify for me.
Also, how do you know he didn't fake the 3-toed footprints? How do you know he didn't wear shoes over his feet that had 3 toes? To really throw us off.
So wait. Are you suggesting then that he that the Fouke monster himself, before he attacked people, he just put on these weird little mitten socks that just have 3 toes in there just to fuck with people?
It's a calling card.
Yes. No, Ace, to fuck with people.
You don't call it the Fouke monster for nothing.
You'll fuck with me, I fuck with you. Somebody out there who's listening to this podcast for the first time, especially if you're an artist, do us a favor. I want you to draw an image of the Fouke monster, but with 3-toed mitten socks.
Yeah, this'll get him.
And just he's just got to be screaming out, screaming out, "I'll fuck with all of you!" And see if you can throw in that Irish accent in there as well.
Wait, is the Fouke monster actually Irish?
Apparently he's Shrek.
What are you doing in my creek?
Wait, I just saw something. Okay, hold on. You guys remember like the scene where like the mother like and her kids like encounter the monster like on the in front of their house like in the middle of the movie?
Yeah.
Okay. Now imagine this. That's happening. All of a sudden you hear, somebody once told me the world is...
That's it. The blockbuster is Shrek all along.
They cut away from the quiet, calm country music to that.
Oh, wait.
Yes.
That
would be perfect.
And then when he breaks through the window at the end at the Ford house, he just goes, "This is my swamp now.
It's almost ogre.
Fuck is love, fuck is life."
It just reminded me. There's actually a fan-made film of Fiona as a horror movie villain.
Oh wait, I've seen.
I thought that was She-Hulk.
I've seen that. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Wasn't that She-Hulk?
I guess. I can't tell the difference though.
Okay, now you know what. Now what I gotta do now is since I have a digital copy of Boggy Creek, I'm just gonna like put a compilation of just all the scenes of the Fouke monster, but with the Shrek music. And then it's just like the final song at the end will just be like after like they think they got the creature away, you just hear, "Then I saw her face. Now I'm a believer."
Yeah, ooh, even better during the final fight, you play "Holding Out for a Hero" from Shrek 2.
Or maybe even just have a little cut-ins of Shrek just like roaring like he did to the villagers in the first part of the movie.
Oh, I don't know. Better yet, it's gonna be like in Shrek 2 where he's like, "I'm an ogre." He just roars at the dog.
Yeah.
Oh god, this is fucking ridiculous.
Or just like have voice clips of Shrek himself when the monster is attacking.
Oh god. God, now we have this.
Oh god, that means when the monster is shaking the dog around, hugging him, you say his wee little boots.
Oh no. He's like, "Donkey! Donkey!" Oh god, now I got some editing to do. God damn it. But yeah.
Oh, you were expecting Prince Charming.
Oh god. Imagine he says that in front of the boy. Oh god. But with that hilarity aside, I think we can at least all agree here that this is a good movie to watch, though. If not, at least watch it with friends.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, then. With that said, I think that'd be a wrap.
Yeah, I think so.
Really enjoyed this.
So for everyone watching, stay tuned for next time because our next adaptation will be moving into a little familiar territory of Japan with a certain slit-mouthed woman.
And before you ask if she's pretty, don't ask. That from what I've seen, that's a bad thing doing.
Yeah, you don't want to know. But
please don't ask. Please don't answer her.
Don't answer her. But with that being said, though, thank you all for joining us for Cryptic Collectors. I am Ace Marrok.
Dan.
Oh, I thought we were going to... Okay. My name is SippyVA.
And I have been William the Crooked Man Kearney, and this has been From the Woods to Hollywood, Cryptic Collectors.